claim that the Africa and Middle East used to be one until in 1867 when the French dig the Suez Canal and created a man-made separation. So they then take that small piece of land called Middle East and try to define the entire continent. Look, the stories of the Bible, they happen in a very, very small place.
Very small portion of the very, very north
Yeah, so you take that small...
of the continent.
Of the continent.
Yeah.
Now you take that small portion of a geographical location that is outside of Africa. They call it Northeast Africa. So these are now those who try to Africanize the Middle Eastern stories, Africanize the Bible, Africanize the Quran, Africanize Abrahamic religion. Abraham, these religions are called Abrahamic religions, right? And now Abrahamic religions are Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. Why Abrahamic? Because all these three religions, they claim to be the descendant of Abraham. All of them, the Muslims, the Christians, the Jews. Their story begins with Abraham. And then when they stretch it further to their first ancestor will be Adam. Now, these are not African because our ancestors are older than Adam. You go throughout this continent, you go to Maruping, you get a 1.9 million years old remains of an ancestor there. You go to Makapan Valley, you get the 3.5 billion years proto-human and human remains. You go to Ethiopia, you get the 3.2 million years remains of what they call Dinkinesh. You go around this continent, whether it be the Australopithecus, Boise, Zinjanthropus, Homo erectus, or Homo habilis, Homo sapien, Homo sapien, even the Homo sapien, which is the modern man, evolved about 300,000 years ago. So when you speak of Inzalo Yelanga, you're speaking of a Homo sapien civilization, a civilization created by ancestors who look like us, not those ones now where you go to the cradle of mankind, where they usually call it the cradle of mankind, but it's basically cradle of mankind because what they are always displaying.
Nothing like that.
Look nothing like that. They come up with ape. They call them the primates. You know, hominid, because this is the European concept, evolution.
Evolution of the black man, not born.
Yeah, because of course all of these six hominids, they are all found in Africa. All these six different varieties of ancestors. They claim that they evolved from
monkeys.
Us, from our ancestors who left. One of the six ancestors who evolved, one of them left to Europe through the Iberian Peninsula. They have all different theories. How did this out of Africa migration, the out of Africa theory, Juluka have a song about it, Scatterlings of Africa, is the out of Africa migration. Now, they claim that these indigenous African men left the continent, get caught up in Europe by the Ice Age. It began to affect the recessiveness of gene, the mutation, the albinism, which then produced the white man, the Cro-Magnon, the Neanderthal, the Basque, the Latinos, all of these type of theories. The out of Africa theory. So now they will say the first species are primate, they are relatives of the monkeys, but that is not our story.
It isn't.
No, it's our European story. Our story goes like this. There are four kingdoms. There is the human kingdom. We have always been human. There was never a time when humans were not human. There is the animal kingdom, and the human kingdom and the animal kingdom don't mix. And then there is the mineral kingdom, and there is the plant kingdom. We have the four kingdoms. whether you go even according to the Dagara cosmological wheel, or the wheel of the Dagara cosmology, you know, it's got 5 things, and then the fire, which is basically the sun.
Yes.
And then from there you have the human kingdoms, the animal kingdom, the mineral kingdom, and the plant kingdom. Again, according to the Dagara cosmology of Burkina Faso, West Africa.
And water is not a kingdom as well?
Yes, the water kingdom, the marine kingdom,
The
actually
marine kingdom,
in the Dagara cosmology is the marine kingdom, because everything else came out of the water.
Correct.
And then go through the processes of metamorphosis. So, and hence in ancient Kemet, the gods, they have the gods with the snake heads. That is mainly the goddesses, the females. They have snake heads. Snake, why? Because it is symbol of resurrection, self-evolving. It releases, sheds its skin and keep on reinventing itself. And then the frog, because it achieved in 10 months what human beings, according to Western evolution story, what human beings achieved in 1 billion years, which is evolutionary process.
Okay.
So the Kemites, they use the frog for the male deities, the heads of the male deities, and the snake of the female deities. But because of their metamorphosis, like throughout all Africa, our totems are about the qualities that are in those animals. You are abrasive, you will have to bleed before you dequail this one, you know. Puti, Bafokeng. Why most of Bafokeng, the advisors of the king, totem ya bona ke mutla ke rabbit so ba botlhale o understand ba dule ke bona ba advise and dikgosi.
It would be very interesting to hear about Bagara le ba Diphuti. What was it, you know?
Some
kind of a story.
Some is communities that lived around Diphuti, Baba Puting. Some like Bapedi, when they were traveling when they were separating with Bakhatla from Mohale Mountain, from Hamokale, going to Limpopo. On the way, when they separated with Bakhatla, their totem was monkey. So on the way, when they were traveling, then a porcupine passes by Noko. And then they saw it as a good omen, a good sign that where they are going is going to be good. Then they change a totem, and then they become Dinoko, Babina Noko. You see, by just an accident or a situation of a porcupine was passing, so they adopted it as their totem. Babangwe, they were surrounded by the Puti. They look at also qualities in that Puti. Yakitima, this, in that.
So they also start to model their society
according to those qualities.
To the nature of that particular animal.
Yes, because you see, we lived with the animals. We did not have this biblical concept that we have to have dominion over the earth and subdue it and dominate it. We do not have this Western concept that we have to subdue nature. We have to dominate nature. We live with nature. So we take certain qualities. The Bavenda people, they have the Python dance, you know, the Domba. The Domba among the Bavenda and the ancient Bavenda and the Shona stories, cosmologies, we were taught sex by the Python. So this is a movement that we do in bed. It's a Python dance. It's a Domba. But also it shows that the young maiden now, they are in a position to engage in sexual intercourse and begin to procreate. But also it comes from their stories of creation that the two founders of the Bavenda nation, which is Chamusila and Ramabulana, they were a python which separated, and then they became two men, who the other one occupied the other part of the land, the other one occupied the other part of the land. They were not supposed to be in the same space. Should they find themselves in the same space, they will quickly join up and become a python, which accidentally it happened like that. One was a good performer, singer going around, the other one was running his kingdom, and then he had this other one performing somewhere. Everybody coming to see him, they call him, come and see, he refused until they pressurize him to go. When he go, then they meet, and then they joined together again, become a python. So the python become the greatest symbol of the Bavenda people. But the python also, for again, its qualities. So it is not necessarily literally like that. These are symbolic. These stories are metaphorical. They are symbolic. They are representing qualities within these animals. We learned a lot of things from animal. We named ourselves, our names, bare Unari, bare Ukwena, abona bare sefane sa gago ke ra kgwale ke nonyane. Understand? So we lived with nature. We named ourselves after nature, after these animals, after their qualities. They form totemism. Our totemic mysteries come from interacting with these animals. But at no particular stage have we literally saw ourselves evolving from monkeys in particular.
Never.
But we have stories of us relating to python, our ancestors, others coming from the python, others coming from there. But it's all metaphorical, it is not literal. So the python of the universe, we have a saying, like Aspedi, if you are allergic to something, but so you have on a nora like a marathon. How to a sabunga, one a nora ye mishuang, Magula bariki kundalin, renari manguni bariki umbilini. Yellow is a mammoth, the spine, can I close So we have all of these things because our people understood that all of nature, it is within us. All the elements that went into nature, it is within us. The amount of salt that is in the sea is the same amount of salt that is in our human body. Our sperms, our tears, our blood, they carry the same salt. So we are the totality of all that exists. We are part of everything that exists. So we saw qualities that we can draw unto ourselves and use them to motivate ourselves, to inspire ourselves, and saying, we are Bakwena. Ke di kgoshi tsa Lesotho ke Bakwena, wa bona, Bafokeng ke di advisors, wa bona, ba mutla o jewang o letala, and all of that, to understand. These are totems which are referred to in this realm of anthropology and sociology. They call them spirit animals. Those are the spirit animals, because we recognize spirituality in everything that is in nature. That is the uniqueness of African spirituality, how we relate with our universe, how we relate with our ecology, how we relate with the cosmos itself. So those qualities, they come in to define certain realities about us. So because where they were staying, there were a whole lot of fishes. So clapping, and then therefore clapping become their totem. And interestingly enough, that makes us all collectively nature conservationists, because you are not supposed to eat your animal totem. Only pudding, how you put, only mukwena kasije kwena. So if all of us come together, we will eat nothing from nature, from the animal kingdom. Exactly, and because you see, as one of the venerate uncle Makula, the Indians, India, they even literally worship it. They stop. They stop when it passes. I understand. They don't eat it because it is holy, according to them. And so it should be going with most of us. We're not supposed to be eating that because Oh, understand. So bohomu basioni bauja homu. I don't know the logic, or maybe it's the earlier version of Jamil. Like
the way you find
the body of the god, you know, which are some of the rituals that come from the cannibalistic religions, you know, eating the body of the god and all of that. So yeah, but it's quite interesting to know and in a more broader totemic way, you don't
eat home.
You don't eat your totem.
No.
You don't eat your totemic animal.
Instead, abajikuluve.
Probably they've got the wires.
Maybe totem
probably maybe their true totem supposed to be kulube. But I think there's something in relation with them about kulube besides usije kulube. I wanna like bu bagobo mama bolo kakwa. Babina kulube, kidi kulube. And then I mean, and the kulube, of course, it goes even until to the wild. The kulube chanaga, you know, baba kwebo, you know, bo ngulube yalonde, you know. So yeah, so those are our own totemic mysteries. But then coming back to this glorified plagiarism of painting the characters of the Bible black.
Black Jesus.
Black Jesus. Now, like I was saying, that the Black Jesus story, it is delaying the black emancipation because instead of...
It's a really poor imitation.
It's a poor imitation of the white
man.
Jesus. Yes. Because you see, anytime you hear somebody say black God, the black God is a poor imitation of the white God.
Yeah.
The black Jesus is a poor imitation of the white Jesus. That means to say, you're using your Jesus, your black Jesus, you're using the white Jesus to measure your black Jesus with. So the painters of the black Jesus...
No matter what happens, they still become the bar, the standard.
The standard. So the black Jesus, his mother is still a Virgin Mary. He still turned water into wine. And he still have 12 disciples, but these disciples are only black. Understand? So it's a glorified plagiarism that most of our woke and conscious communities are doing. As much as they are doing it with Kemet too, that they go to Kemet, they start to look for the Christian God in Africa, in Kemet. They started in Kemet to look for the Christian God in Africa, in Kemet, and then from there, the missionaries, when they come in here, they use the names of our God to define their deities. You know, they'll be saying, Mudimu ki Jehovah. Now, when Mudimu become Jehovah, you are now colonizing the African God. You are colonizing the African God, and the African spirit. You're colonizing the African culture. Because Mudimu, in the original culture where Mudimu come from, Mudimu tolerate malopo. Mudimu obereka le badimu. Mudimu badimu le botu le batu. So Mudimu will have badimu as the ancestors who are charged with the responsibility of connecting Batuli Mudimu. So they are the ancestors who are charged with the responsibility of conveying the needs and the prayers Jabatu Mudimu. Now when Mudimu now is taken out of the culture of Mudimu, which is Basotho Batswana Bapedi, and he's put into the Bible, he's no more the Mudimu Wabapadi Bapedi Basotho Batswana, ke Mudimu Abraham Ali Sagale Jacob. Now when he become Mudimu Sagale Jacob, Abraham Ali Sagale Jacob, he's no more tolerating the things he was tolerating about Bapedi Basotho Batswana. So as a tolerate
the expectation you like align yourself the tolerable.
Yeah, like he doesn't tolerate what he was tolerating.
Yes.
So he's tolerating the things of the Bible now. Yes. So you have colonized this God effectively. So he was okay with when he was in his original habitat. He was okay with Opasa, Badimu, Dipabadimu. He was okay with consulting and healing through traditional medicine. Now he's no more okay with that. So he was okay with Badimu. Now when you get into the Bible now, the Badimu become the demons of the Bible. They start to refer to them as Madimoni. instead of Badimo. Understand? So they're colonizing the African gods with these European gods. They come up with this god who is a chameleon god, the god of the Bible, because in every culture he reached, he adopted the image of that. When he come among the Mazulu, he become Mvelinqangi. When you go among the Tsonga people, he become Shikwembo. When you go among the Xhosa people, he become Tip. When you go among the Shona people, he become Muari. But when he become Muari, he does not tolerate the things that he was tolerating about the Shona. He's now coming up with his Israelite attitude towards African things, which when he was originally Muari, he never had a problem with the Mashona cultural practices where he originally come from. So they colonized this. So again, it is that search for the Christian God in Africa, using the Christian spectacles to study African divinities, African deities, African gods. And that is how they managed to colonize us, because you see, they come up with, and that is the most effective tool of colonialism and neocolonialism is they come up with strange things that sound familiar. They're using names that sound familiar. Yet these things are very strange. They're imposing something very strange to you using familiar terms like Modimo. But they're introducing something completely strange before that, and then that is what created Majakani. That now you have a certain group of black people who questioning their black culture, their black identity, and rejecting it now, and start to have issues with some of their things that they will normally not have issues with them. They will normally not question them. And so that is how our colonization became. And then now the modern woke movement is repeating the same thing. But this time they are recolonizing themselves, not the white man who's doing it. Remember the Willie Lynch strategy is always creating self-monitoring slaves. So the woke movement is creating self-monitoring slaves. You know, I remember my brethren, he said people are waking up to sleep again, and some other people took offense. But he was really at this point that the woke movement, which is supposed to be woke, is having people now going out and taking non-African things and trying to Africanize them and come up with trivial arguments like the Middle East was part of Africa. And being part of Africa, so therefore everything that happened in the Middle East is African, even though it is fundamentally opposed to Africa. You get into the bigger continent here, you don't have this toxic monotheism. You don't have this intolerant God. You don't have this insane God. You don't have this omnipotent lunatic. You don't have this jealous God. You don't have this insecure God. You don't have this God who created things in 6 days and get tired and had need to rest on the seventh day. You don't have that. The entire continent. Then you have this piece of land which produced that. Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. And you want to use this thing that is so strange to this thing and try to colonize the entire continent because you have decided to glorify something that is not even African, developed outside of Africa, but because of by proximity they are close by. You understand? So you want to claim that, oh, the Middle East before it was separated from the
Suez
continent
Canal.
through the Suez Canal, the Middle East was part of Africa. And then they even refer to it as Northeast Africa. In order to sneak in through that Suez Canal, to sneak in Judeo-Christianity and Islam into Africa. But look, North Africa today is occupied by the Arabs through conquest. Libya, Morocco, Algeria, Egypt, Mauritania. Understand?
Eritrea.
Eritrea, although Eritrea is part of Ethiopia, but again it's Afro-Asiatics. Like in Ethiopia, you get Afro-Asiatics. Now, are you going to say, because of those Arabs who are living in North Africa and the culture they've developed over the past 1,400 years or 1,300 years of occupying North Africa, are you going to say that their culture there is a culture of us because of they are in the same continent with us? No. Otherwise, apartheid will be extension of our own culture because it was invented in South Africa here by non-South African. So the fact that there was a bunch of people who were living next to our continent in the desert and developed this desert religion with their desert ancestor who come from Iraq. Abraham came from Ur of the Chaldees. The Ur of the Chaldees is in Mesopotamia. It is in Iraq. So now you say that guy from Iraq is ancestor of
to us.
So, and this is the logic of the Abrahamic religions. That most of them, they are saying, oh, Adam, we have ancestors that are way older than Adam based on the living evidences that are there. If you don't want to go through the framework of evolution and everything, we can just start with Inzalo Yelang.
That's it.
About 300,000 years ago. We can talk about Boma Pungube. Okay, it will be a little bit after Adam. But we talk about the great Bantu temples at Sudwala Caves, 75,000 years old. I'm talking about things that are before Christ. BC, because Makupungu is what
80.
Yes. Talking about BC now, the things that were before Christ. In South Africa, you were talking about the Southern Cradle now. The 75,000 years old Bantu temple, Sudwala Caves. Inzalo Yelang, 300,000 years old. Understand? That place, it is older than Adam in 294,000. It is 294,000 years older than Adam. Yet, the white men decide to name it Adam's calendar. How come it become Adam's calendar when it is older than Adam in 294,000 years old? But it is again this tendency of biblicizing information. They do they do placenta analysis through the framework of mitochondrial DNA. They are searching for the common ancestor, the genetics, the common ancestors of all people on earth, of all women on earth, that where do all these females, whether they're Indians or who and who and who, where do all females come from? They found out they come from one woman who lived 300,000 years ago in Central Africa. And then when they decide to publish a story about that woman, they say the African Eve. How is it that she become an African Eve? You see now, they even say
African Eve. So
because Eve is not African.
Any other? Eve is not African.
First of all, Eve is not African. That is why they have the African Eve. Otherwise, they would have said Eve. We've discovered Eve now. But they say the African Eve because Eve is not African. Now, the African Eve, this African woman, they are using Eve as a prototype for this African woman. But this African woman is older than Eve. Eve is supposed to be modeled after this woman, not the other way around. But colonization will have you have a creature of 6,000 years ago called Eve to become a prototype of a 294,000 years older than Eve to model Eve.
That's right.
That is colonization. That is using the Bible because according to the Western civilization, life began the first man. Those who are, the West gave us two theories of existence. But the West give us two theories of anything anyway. They give us Christianity and atheism. They give us creationism and evolution. They're all contradictory. They give us capitalism and communism. They give you monogamy and homosexuality. Understand me? So now, in this contradictory paradigm of them in everything, now those who go by the creation story, the creation story of the West, as the West stands today, extend to Adam and Eve. It begins at Adam and Eve. So the world, according to the Western logic, is 6,000 years old. And then the very same West come up with evolution and then discover that the universe is billions and billions of years. Now the other day I was going through the News 24 stuff, and then I see one of them, they said, they have discovered something that existed before the Big Bang. Now the Big Bang is supposed to be a point of origin. Now they discover something that was before the Big Bang, a star that existed before the Big Bang. I said, this is the West.
Yes.
Now, Western civilization, it is an ignorant civilization. It is based on research. Now, you research what you don't know. Now, everything in the Western civilization is about research. Because why? They don't know.
Yes.
And discovery. To the point that they discover a place that people have been staying there for 200,000 years old. They've been staying there for 200,000 years. And then they arrive there. The moment they arrive there, according to them, that place began when they arrived there.
It exists now.
So this is what the ancient
That's what
Egyptian...
Miriam Makeba was saying, that they have this thing where they come in, they find people living there, and they say, there we have discovered you. Now you live.
Yeah, now you live.
Yes.
Before we come, you were not living.
No.
So that is why Richard Henry Stanley is actually the man who coined the term the dark continent, because the West was ignorant of this continent, so according to them it was dark. And then it became light the moment
they got there.
They got here there. So the ancient Egyptian used to tell the Greeks that, you see, you Greeks are children. Your philosophy is nothing but philosophy. The Sophie of the fools, or philosophy, not philosophy. That you think the gods began the day you discovered them, the day you became aware of them. Like the moment you learn about Osiris, then you think the stories of Osiris began that time. But it is older than you. This story was in existence before there was Greeks, before they were European, before the European evolve or crawl out of the Caucasus Mountain or the caves where they were living. There was these stories. Now, upon their discovery, so these are the people who have mastered rewriting history to suit themselves. That is why there's always this saying among the conscious Africans that tales of the lion will always glorify the hunter until the lion tell their own tales. So this is the time that the lion, the slumbering giants of Africa, must tell their story according to how they know them. Our ancestors do not have the concept of evolution from monkeys to humans. So it's not our story. So one of the things is we must never lie to ourselves about history in order to have history. We must not go around and paint Jesus black in order to have a black Jesus. We never had him, we don't have him, we don't need him. It is not necessary for us to have a Jesus. Black or white, we don't need a Jesus. It's not our story. We have our own stories. African children must go and learn the story of Khodomodum, the great warriors, the great hero who saved the people from this big giant, which we call Khodomodum. Whether it was a dinosaur, whether it was a dragon, but it swallowed the whole people. And then there was this child, born of immaculate conception, because these things swallowed everybody, and this child was left only with mother, with their own mother. And then this child was growing so rapidly, like after the mother gave birth to this child, when the child was born, he was born wearing a necklace of the diviner's bones. So lina la gage ke ditaolane. Because wa pere pheta ya ditaola. So ba re ke ditaolane. So ke ngaka. So it's the birth of ngaka. Now check it stories tsa dingaka ore rena ba pholoshi ba rena ke dingaka. Ba pholoshi ba bagolo ke dingaka. Malopo ke merwalo ya badimo wa bona. Malopo ke ditori tsa rena tsa dingaka le batho wa bona. So ke rena ye malopo ke yoga ya rena ye. We dance ourselves into trance and get into the spirit. We don't steal and silent ourselves. And we don't do the chakra, the things of the chakra hands and all of that. We don't do those stuff. Those are Asiatic, Eastern metaphysics. Again, these woke groups, they'll go to Kemet and see the pictures of the people of Kemet. Baduji so bathabile tedi yoga. it come from there. These are yoga poses and what. They are grabbing on straw. They are trying very hard. It's a desperate search for something that is not there and is not us.
In places that you know very well.
Yes.
Cannot.
And ignoring their own. Like, for instance, the story of Mushanyana Sinkatan. There's much to it when it is explained in our own way, in our African way. Ki ditaolane, o belegwa ana le ditaola tša gage. E rutang into gore ditaola di a tswalelwa. The only thing gore a wele jona badimo, mare di a tswalelwa. And then mara tsa maelo nya di khonyo ra tlo dia mollo ga bo kra go tšiwa bona o gola, you know, with consciousness, and then ha gola o conscious of the fact that we are alone here. Ba kae batho ba bang o tsebela kae gore there were other people, because he never saw any people. Now they show you that the evolution of consciousness, it's inborn. And I say, so we need to have a metaphysical explanation of our stories in order to fit the black metaphysics. And then Rotoalelo adopted the Eastern metaphysics and Buddhi chakra and whatnot. We have our own cosmologies that are built, that are inbuilt with our own metaphysics, a metaphysical explanation of these phenomena. We need to stop using European concepts to define our own phenomena. Now we have those phenomena. Ahole Mushanyana Sinkatani went out, destroyed this animal. Aibule, apoloshe batho, ba fetše batho ba di reng, half of the time ba plota mmola. Again, is teaching us the ungrateful and unthankfulness of the people. That you must watch the people you try to save. Like Benjamin Buromboro from Zimbabwe say that when you fight for black people, you fight with one hand, because the other hand must remain free to push those black people who are trying to pull you down. Like I was saying, that the Black Jesus story is delaying our emancipation, and it still got us caught up in this matrix of the Jesus. The only difference is it's painted black. So that is neocolonialism. Neocolonialism is that we Africanize our colonization. We paint it black. We made it look like us. We make it suit us to continue colonizing ourselves, because we are at the stage of self-monitoring slavery. Slavery has never produced more slaves than this time. They removed the physical chains, and the physical chains were removed from the hand and the feet, and they were put into the brain. So now, again, we have to unchain the mind, because we voluntarily chain it. Even if you tell the people the historical evolution of Christianity as a colonial religion, they will tell you that, but I was not forced to be a Christian. I chose it. Yes, you chose to enslave yourself, because
so
we are living
the
in
plan
the free choice.
worked out so perfectly well. Even when we see it is right in front of us, we are too reluctant to do anything about it, because it threatens. We're going through what is called cognitive dissonance.
It's a cognitive dissonance.
We cannot accept. Because then what else is there?
It's a cognitive.
It's very scary.
Yes.
To then go back and then rediscover yourself.
Yes, because you see,
reclaim yourself.
You
it's
see,
very scary.
You see, conditions were created for that kind of identity crisis that we're facing. That your identity was destroyed and replaced, you know, and literally so, because you grow up now, you have to go into their schools. Then they demand that you have a European name. They call it a Christian name, because they can't call you Holy Kata, they have to call you Nelson. And then you go on and become Nelson Mandela instead of Holy Kata, because they can't pronounce it. But it's not only because they can't pronounce it, they are renaming you, they are branding you, they are directing your destiny. They are channeling you somewhere. So they are beginning the process of identity crisis. You're identifying with some European called Nelson. You can't identify with the other Nelson, the other Holy Kata, the Mukui, the Ramatsobanis, all these people you can't identify with. So they are giving you something else outside of you to identify yourself with. And then from there, it begins the process of dismantling your own identity. They feed you with a religion that is not yours, which is Christianity. They feed you with a world view that is not yours. They feed you with a life view that is not yours. They feed you with a cosmology that is not yours. They feed you with epistemology that is not yours. They feed you with an ontology that is not yours. They feed you with a philosophy that is not yours. They feed you with a history that is not yours. They feed you with a culture that is not yours. They feed you with a calendar that is not yours. So what you're doing now, you reach a point that you think that without all of this artificiality that they gave you, without all of this, you feel like you are lost. You'll be lost. That is why our people, when they come and discover that we don't read Bible, and then they say, and how do you worship God? Because they are conditioned to believe that you need a Bible.
Worship without this thing.
Yeah, you need a Bible to worship God. So you can't worship without the Bible. You say, I'm not religious. You think, and then how do you worship God? God belongs to no religion. I don't have to be religious to have a relationship with God. It is spiritual. That is why we're talking about African spirituality. And of course, some of those people who are still caught up in the matrix, they're saying there is no African spirituality. So they're basically denying the African his unique and individuality that is supposed to help emancipate him and help now to make him find spiritual grounding within his own skin. They tell you that this grounding that you need within your own environment and skin, you call it African spirituality. It doesn't exist because spirituality is universal. There is no such thing. We are spirits going through human experience. And we are going through human experience as Africans. So what do you call that? When a spirit going through African human experience. It's African spirituality. As easy as ABC like that. Simple logic. It doesn't need too much dichotomies and these concepts and all of that. It's as simple as that spirituality is reality. If you don't deal with reality, you're not dealing with spirituality. So African spirituality is African reality. Now you can't tell me that there is no African reality. You are telling me that we Africans, we do not experience reality as African? In this country? We go through racist Indians, racist colors, racist Europeans, and then we are forced to reflect on our uniqueness as African. And you're telling me that uniqueness cannot be defined and contextualized. Mahua in this country, they don't have malopo. Makula in this country, they don't have malopo. We have malopo, so why do you define that? It is not universal.
No.
It is particular.
It's particular.
Yeah, I understand. So you can't tell me that our strategic particularism doesn't exist. So you want to subsume us and consume us within this Western universalism, which is basically Westernism. And I said, you're denying things that are particularly African, and then you universalize them. But you know that universalism is Westernism. Once they say something is universal, they mean to say it is Western accepted standard, Western approved. Once they say it's universal, it is global, it's international.
Where's the African in there? I'm saying while they're westernizing everything. It's like, where's the African in there?
There is no African.
You still go in and choose that.
It's like when you say rainbow nation.
What is that? Is there a black? Is there even a black
There's
color?
There's no black color in the rainbow. So, you understand? So you get us absorbed in other color spectrum except your own. But in that color spectrum, there is no black. You understand? Unless you're telling me that when you combine all those colors, they will give you color black. But nobody is combining those colors to arrive at a color black up to so far. You understand? And there is no, even the integration that we might fight so hard for, it does not arrive at a blackness.
No, it doesn't.
We get to integrate, we're absorbed in the integration. We become poor imitation of the white man. We become Afropians. So
we embody the whole thing, and it's not even ours.
Exactly. So now this denialist and this woke, this over denial of things African. There is no African spiritual. If there is no African spiritual, then there is no African culture.
Yes.
And if there is no African culture, then there is no African personality. Yes. And if there is no African personality, there is no African identity. Why do we have African culture, African philosophy, and we don't have African spirituality? What is so much wrong? Why is these people are fighting so much African spirituality? Why African spirituality? But yet they do agree that there is African culture. Understand? They agree that there is African philosophy, Ubuntu, and Ma'at. But they deny that there is African spirituality. Why? Because the battle, it is about the soul of the Bantu. And that is why at Bantu Soul Society we say the oldest human soul, it is the Bantu soul. And there is a reason for that. And then the first subject that we teach is African spirituality. There's a reason for that. And we say all the 9 modules, African spirituality, African cosmology, African ontology, African epistemology, African psychology, African history, African culture, African calendar, the totality of all that is Africa is my witness. This is that Africa, bear witness to this. We evolve this, we have this. We need to just define them to our people in our own terms. Seruna, saruna, karuna. Not some other people. People have been telling us a lot about us, who are not even us. People who can't even speak an African language, they want to teach you about African culture and African history and African spirituality, yet they can't speak the language. The language is a door to culture. The language is a carrier of our concepts, principles, and ideas.
And it's quite disappointing that there doesn't seem to be even an effort to try and understand the people within the communities who you are charged with with the custodianship of their indigenous cultures and languages and knowledge systems and all of that, and you don't even make an effort to try
and understand them.
No,
because you see, that is the whole thing. This is a dilemma of South Africa. Strategic position that are supposed to contribute to African Renaissance, which is the revival of our African cultures, are occupied by converted Africans who are Christians, who have problems, who have reduced Africanism in this country into Heritage Day, where you're only wearing your dashikis and all of that just for one day in a year, and then, the trivialization, the nonsensification of Africa. And these are the people who are responsible for funding that's supposed to go towards developing our African cultural expressions, our African institutions, our alternative institution outside of the universities, because it is a fallacy to think you can use an institution like a university which was not fundamentally designed to make us. No, we have to create alternative institutions. That is why we come up with institutions like Bantu Soul Society, the Kamaku Institutes, like that, you understand? Because it is about creating institutions that are deliberately designed to give expression to our Africanness. Not these institutions that were not originally designed for that, and we keep on trying to fit ourselves into them. Like this concept of private, There are private hospitals. We go there, we're forced to go there. We say it's integration, it's freedom. The private hospitals are not designed for you.
No, they're not.
No, they're designed to be private to the Europeans. The private school. We force our children to go into private school. The schools that were originally not designed to teach anything African because they are private. Baba tolerate because they are not designed for you. Now it's the same thing that we keep on sending our children to the Romans to be educated by the Romans. And then we act surprised when we see them coming back behaving like a Caesar. How does it work? How does it work? It's because we forcing this thing. Look at the hype and the fever of the rugby we just came from.
Oh my goodness.
80% of our people of our people who were wearing those rugby t-shirt and rugby supporting, 80 to 90% of them, they don't even understand rugby. They don't even know how to go. They just look at people shouting, they jump. They don't understand it at all. But we are into these things that we must force ourselves into whiteness in order to be accepted. Understand? Have you ever seen white people in these countries wearing t-shirts when Bafana play?
No.
When Pirates play, the biggest teams in these countries, Pirates and Chiefs, they always have their derby every year. There's
don't
always
see
the
white
Soweto
people.
derby. Do you see them? Do you see this euphoria? It is so much that even load shedding was suspended.
Yeah.
There was no load shedding.
Yeah.
Immediately after
We started again.
with the load shedding. Why? And this is supposed to be the time for the exams, that children are preparing themselves for exams. Now they're taking electricity for them. Understand? But sports like that, which they claim, you see, is because of we have also this narrow definition of nation building, social cohesion, rainbow nation, because it is only nation building when we support white sports.
Yes.
But when whites supposed to support black sports,
No.
it's not nation building. It's not even emphasized.
No. No. It gets mentioned once in a while as a by the way, nothing ever happens.
You understand? It's a by the way. So why is it that the responsibility of reconciliation is only rested upon the black people of this country? Why is it reconciliation such a one-sided story?
Yes.
You're
Why reconciling with people that don't really want to, but they're not interested.
They're not interested in reconciliation. They're not interested in...
It does not affect them in any way, whether you
whether
hear
you
or not.
reconcile or not, it doesn't affect. No. It doesn't at all. Understand? So we keep on bending backwards to try to accommodate an idea that is not working. It can't work. It will not work because it is one-sided. This relationship of ours is loop-sided. Understand? So it has to be balanced.
And it's toxic.
And it can't be balanced. Remember, we're interviewing those sisters and asked them that, so you are working here at Woolworths, Wimpy, wherever, and then you are wearing t-shirts. Did the company buy the t-shirt for you? No.
They had to buy
themselves those t-shirts. And to show patriotism. Not even the company that are white companies sponsor the t-shirts to go and support a white team. The president have to even leave everything and go and fly to go to Paris. We don't have a country.
No, we don't.
We don't have a country. So, and of course, this will offend many people who feel like social cohesion should be on the basis of us mimicking everything European, and yet Europeans are not reciprocating, like...
They can't be bothered.
Yeah, they can't be bothered. They don't need to, you see. Now, and we wonder why nobody takes us serious. Nobody's going to take us serious until we take ourselves serious, We need to reach a point where some of these unnecessary artificial festivities, we boycott them. Like, why? Why should we do that? Why should we participate in the Black Friday? The biggest consumerism.
Why should we participate in Christmas? Why should we participate in Valentine's Day?
Yes.
We are the consumer. We hold the power.
Yes. And look at... Yeah, exactly. Why can't we do that? No, we do the most ridiculous thing. You find people are waiting for the shops to open. They start to storm the shop, and educated, decent, civilized, Christianized black people go in there to go macro, and all of them fighting over baskets and trolleys, and just to demonstrate the level of consumerism, crass materialism, and Westernism. No, this is pathetic. So
not so long ago, some drink, energy drink, these children had their parents queuing up shop. That thing apparently needs some ridiculous price of 500 mils for something like stupid, like over 300 rand.
Wow.
And these kids were just like...
And what is it supposed to do?
I remember this thing. It's programming.
It's programming.
It's programming.
I remember one time I reached home, my kids were telling me they need a particular school bag of Sophia the First. That's when I first learned about Sophia the First. My daughter's like, Barley, we must come up with Sophia the First. Who's Sophia the First? Is some European princess. You know that everyone must carry Sophia the First. So this programming is continuous, and the love of whiteness is instilled in that way. That you know, you have to have your Barbie doll, you have to have your Sophia the First, you have to have all of these things that are part and parcel of European festivals and holidays, and heroes and celebrities. You see. Now, where is transformation there? Where is transformation there? There is no transformation, you know. The only transformation, it is that the blacks are transformed into being non-black. That's it. Yeah. They're making a poor imitation of the black people. But they're just creating Afropians. That is the only transformation. That's all.
That's diplomatic.